Here are some impressions from a trip to the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto, which I enjoyed immensely. There's so much to look at. If you take your time, you can spend an entire day there. In fact, a day wasn't even enough to see everything. Papua New Guinean axe. From further away it looks as if it's all wood, but then when you take a closer look you can see that the stone is just smoother. Ceremonial clubs. They could be weapons too, except I'm guessing they're too thin. Yeah, they're too thin for that. But if you made them thicker, they would be functional. So that weird thing over there, number 3, is a ceremonial dance paddle. I always found these Oceanian clubs very interesting. Come on, number of different shapes and sizes. And speaking of size, there's a good look at how large they are. Definitely a two-handed club. Right there in the center. And you've got a disc mace right there. The one on the left there is quite long. That must go at least up to my chin. I was trying to show the size, but when you can't stand that close, the perspective distorts things. I would love to know how much these weigh. Ironwood is quite dense, so that must be pretty substantial. There's body armor from Kiribati, made of coconut bast and cowrie shells from the 20th century. Look at how tightly woven that is. And thick too. So that would definitely offer some protection. I wonder how that would compare to a gambeson. It looks firmer than a gambeson, but it's hard to tell. It should offer pretty good protection, at the very least against these weapons, which of course they were designed for. Speaking of which, look at that mean thing. It's from a swordfish. That would definitely hurt to be hit with, but probably not very durable. And there are some Maori clubs, different materials. Let's see here, number 10 and 11, that's probably bone. Let me see here, whale bone. Yeah, both of them are whale bone. 9 is probably jade. Yeah, jade. 8 is probably jade as well. Yeah. And then 7, I'm guessing, is ironwood. It just says wood. Okay. Yeah. Let me try to give you a view of the side there to get a feel for the cross-section. It's a little bit difficult to show, but they are surprisingly thin. I mean, not really surprising in one way, because of course you want to minimize the striking surface to make it more effective, but at the same time it needs to be thick enough to be durable. There's quite a difference. The one made of wood is significantly thicker than the ones made of whalebone. And the jade ones, I'm guessing, are the thinnest. It's a bit hard to see. 5 almost looks like a Viking Age Scandinavian artifact. This kind of art style is kind of reminiscent. What is that? A stern post. Funny that I would associate that with Viking culture when it's literally part of a boat. A knife. Huh. Let's see. So that is shark teeth. The teeth are set so that they cut only with a pulling motion. That is also beautifully carved. All of these pieces are. Huh. I didn't know that the Ainu turned tree bark into yarn that they wove into clothing. I would never have guessed. Would you have known that this is made of bark? It's an impressively tight weave, too. So I suppose here's a character idea for a druid who could have a tree bark gambeson as armor, potentially. So that robe is from 1800s Hokkaido. In that ball of yarn there, you can tell that does look like bark, or at least if you know, you can recognize it. But then the actual woven fabric, not so much. And here's the South American flavor of War Club. You definitely see some similarity between this and Pacific Island weapons, but it has its own character. So this is a sword club from the Kayapo culture, which it says here was used both for war and ceremonies. And this is quite large. In fact, the handle becomes extremely wide. I'm kind of surprised by that. It looks like you would have to hold it very low on the handle. If you look at the blade, so it needs to have a certain thickness to be durable enough. But then they did put an edge up top there. You can see on the side it's left pretty thick, but then they did give it almost like a sword grind on top. Just a thicker one. These two here, number 40 and 41, are blowguns from the Jaguar culture. And there are the darts. Those would be poisoned. The background noise became a little too much there, so this is something I've never seen before. A telephone pole-shaped mace. It doesn't say specifically that it's a ceremonial mace, but I can't imagine it's anything but. This is something indigenous cultures have often done, seeing something made by colonialists and incorporating the design into different objects. I always like to look at stone tools because I know how difficult they are to make. And that in particular would be quite challenging to make it that flat. You have to remove plenty of flakes and you have to do it consistently and evenly. Mistakes accumulate pretty quickly. In fact, you can see a few there where the flake terminated in a step. That's why you see more of a shadow there. And that can be pretty difficult to remove. That is masterful right there. Just look at how straight and even it is. You know, just how evenly spaced the flake patterns are. That is quite impressive. That takes a high level of skill. Predynastic Egypt. I don't know how well the colors show up on video, but it's worth a try. These flasks are quite beautiful. They're very iridescent. So hopefully as I move the camera around, you can see that the color changes a little bit depending on the angle. That one in particular is amazingly vibrant. It's fascinating that this is not the original condition. It's a result of the glass decaying. Wow. So it actually becomes prettier over time. Ends up enhancing the pattern that was already there. I mean, I say that because I only see it now. Maybe it used to look even prettier than this, but it adds something to it in a good way.